The struggle was real. So I did yoga for 30 days. And in this video, I'll show you what happened. Recently, I adopted a slow living lifestyle. I want to live with more intention, be more present with the things that I do. In his book In Praise of Slowness, slow living advocate Carl Honoré writes that yoga can help achieve that core of stillness. It seeks to sustain a person's energy, which can be hampered by stress, anxiety, illness, and overwork. People often find that yoga helps them develop a slow frame of mind. Through the unhurried, controlled movements, they acquire more self-awareness, concentration, and patience. I felt that doing yoga daily for a month might be a great way to cultivate that mindset. Here's how it all started.
Today is the first day of the challenge. This won't be the first time I'm stepping foot on the yoga mat. As a matter of fact, there was a time when I did practice regularly. Full disclosure, in 2015 I even made a Skillshare class with easy yoga poses for beginners, which I will link to in the description down below. However, this is a long time ago. It's been years since I really did any practice, and I can tell. I've never been the most flexible person, but my body has been feeling really tight and stiff lately. And with the gyms being closed because of the pandemic, my life has become even more sedentary than it already was. So I felt now would be a great time to do an experiment. What would it be like if yoga was one of my daily habits? If I like it, I may bring it back into my life for the long term. I'll be doing the Transform 2021 30-day yoga challenge by Yoga with Tim, and I'll link to that in the description below. I picked this challenge because it includes both mobility and strength training. Another reason why I'm choosing his videos is that he's a dude, and well, I'm a dude too. As a guy, even getting on the yoga mat can sometimes seem overwhelming because of all the super flexible yoga girls out there doing all these insane poses. That will never be me. So I naturally gravitated to picking this Yoga with Tim challenge. But I'm not really sure what to expect. Most likely I'll be quite sore in the first week. But what I'm hoping for is that as I'm approaching the end of the 30 days, I will feel more flexible in my body. I've got my mat, I've got my yoga block, I'm only mildly nervous about how this is going to go. Let's do this. The first session went better than I anticipated. I didn't have to stop my practice or rest in child pose halfway. However, I definitely noticed how tight my shoulders were and also my quadriceps. I struggled to hold some poses, especially the dolphin plank. My legs were shaking and it was difficult to keep my balance in the tree pose.
So I just finished the first day of the challenge, and overall I think it went pretty well. I didn't have to pause the video once, so that's definitely a win. But I did notice that my legs were shaking in the dolphin pose, my shoulders are also definitely tight. But for the first day, I think it went pretty well, and yeah, I'm really excited about the rest of the challenge.
On day 2, I felt a bit sore from the day before. I decided to do my practice in the morning, so I could start my day with a win. It was a bit longer, with different poses, lots of stretches and twists. It was hard because my body felt so stiff. Also, a pose like crescent lunge required putting my knee on the mat. Because my mat is quite thin, that was uncomfortable.
After about 3 days of yoga, I started to really feel it. I was sore in my hips, shoulders and upper back. The stretches that work on opening the hip area were especially tough. It felt good to do, like my body really needed it, but it made me feel tired afterwards. On day 4, I felt I wanted to do a longer shavasana.
This is the pose at the end of each practice, where you lie on your back and relax. So I moved to my bed to do a longer body scan. I got really sleepy, was able to finish it, but then I fell asleep, only to wake up an hour later. And that was after having slept for 9 hours already the night before.
The challenge follows a structure where there are roughly 4 to 5 days of regular practice. Then there is a mobility day, followed by a strength training day and a breathwork day.
I was glad to get a bit of a break on day 5. Tim emphasizes that before you can strengthen a movement, you need to be able to do the movement in good form, without compensating from other areas. So we did things like rolling the shoulder muscles and lots of rotating. Rotating from the core, rotating the hip joints, and rotating the arms.
After that mobility training, the next day wasn't what you'd expect in the yoga challenge. No sun salutations, no warrior poses. What did we do instead? Squats against the wall and push-ups.
The only thing I didn't like is that you need a ton of props.
So I have the ball here, I have the bands, a block. Also, I have this fancy stick mobility stick.
Even though we were now 6 days in, I didn't know this was coming, so I was caught off guard by this. I also feel that it's too much to buy all this stuff and then have it around the house all the time, especially since I've adopted a more minimalist lifestyle. So in the end, I decided to do my own version of strength training with the free weights I already had at home. Then on day 7, we did a short session focusing on breathwork. It's day 9 now, and I wanted to do an update when I was 7 days in, but I was feeling quite tired and brain foggy the last couple of days. And that's probably because I switched to a Whole30 diet for the duration of the challenge, which basically is vegetables, fruit, protein and some nuts, and my body just needs some time to adjust. But I've done every class so far, and when I was about 3 or 4 days in, I started to feel really sore. I had a couple of nights where I slept for 9 hours straight, and then one time I even had to take a nap in the afternoon. But right now I feel good, and I definitely notice my body getting more fluid. The only thing that's bothering me a bit is my right shoulder. This has been a weak spot for many years, so that's no surprise. What I do at night is I do some self-massage with a roller and a Theracane, and that seems to help. So yeah, I'll just keep doing that and we'll go on with the challenge. In the first week, it was just Tim himself. It felt like a one-on-one class. From day 8 onwards, he brought on different guest yogis and transformed more into the teacher. This allowed him to explain in more detail how, for example, a certain asana helps to open up the hip joint. But sometimes he really took his time explaining something about a pose, and I was like, dude, hurry up, I'm freaking dying over here. After a week or so, I started to get the hang of the practice. I was still struggling with my energy levels, but I made the yoga challenge the #1 thing that had to be done every day. Some nights I would use the Theracane to massage the muscles on top of my shoulder. And I do rolling, focusing on my back and armpits. These areas of my body have been tight and even painful, probably as a result of spending too much time sitting behind a desk. So I just finished my yoga practice and it's snowing like crazy outside. Here, go check it out. I also started reading up on yoga and its health benefits. Yoga is a practice with roots that go back thousands of years. It was designed as a spiritual path to realize the true nature of oneself. Another term for this is enlightenment. The word yoga means union and refers to the union of body, mind, and spirit. Yoga was not created to make a person into an acrobat. Its purpose was to help you realize your inner nature by bringing balance to the mind and body. Actually, most of what we see in yoga classes in the West is only about 100 years old. For most of the yoga tradition, the focus was not so much on asanas, but on meditation and pranayama or breathwork. I find this helpful to keep in mind when stepping on a yoga mat. I will never be the most flexible yoga practitioner, but luckily, it's not a competition. A friend once told me, the ego is not your amigo, and that's spot on. In yoga, the physical exercises are a tool to train the mind. Awareness is the most important aspect in yoga. The body and mind are constantly interacting with each other. By practicing yoga, you will not only know this at an intellectual level, but at an experiential level. By focusing the attention on the breath or a body part, you restore the connection between mind and body. When you calm the body down with awareness, you also calm down the mind. And developing that awareness is what it's all about, not impressing others. This is something I really enjoyed about this yoga challenge. Multiple times, Tim emphasized the importance of good posture, how some of his students in retreats are disappointed when he teaches so-called beginner poses. But in order to perform the more advanced poses well, you need to have mastered those beginner poses, and that can take a long time. I was happy to hear that Tim himself also struggled with properly performing poses for years, due to injuries from surfing and skateboarding. It helped me to relate and also made me believe that if I keep up the practice, my poses will improve too. I'm 2 weeks in now and I'm definitely getting the hang of it. Actually, the class that I just did, I was really looking forward to it, instead of feeling that I have to do it because it's part of this 30-day yoga challenge that I'm on. My right shoulder, which was bugging me a bit during the last update, is feeling fine now because I've been working on it with a roller. And also my left abductor, which was painful after a hip opening class, is feeling fine now. So I definitely feel my body is getting more fluid. I am still struggling in some poses, but I'm not shaking as much, and for instance when we're doing the plank pose, it's much easier now than it was in the first couple of classes. I'm definitely growing in this practice, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the challenge. The third week was similar to the second week. I didn't feel sore like I did in the first week, and I also knew more of the poses.
In the first week, it was difficult at times to hold a pose and look at the screen simultaneously, to make sure I was doing it correctly. But because a lot of poses are repeated during the challenge, I could now focus more on the pose and bring awareness to how I was breathing. I really started to notice how I could use my breath to ease into a pose. Whereas in the first week, I might have been tensing up at times and really using a lot of energy and even force to hold an asana, I would now pause, exhale consciously, and at the same time relax the tight muscle and go a little deeper. I wasn't pushing, but rather feeling my body and, by using the breath, seeing if I could go just a little bit deeper today. And if I couldn't, that was also okay. I'm glad I got the yoga block before the start of the challenge, because I used it a lot. For those that aren't flexible, like me, a yoga block is great for support in twists like this. Others may be able to just reach the floor, but if I were to try that, I would probably have to force it and possibly injure myself. I also noticed I was gaining more strength in my arms, which I credit to all the planks we did. Another thing I liked about this challenge is that there's a newsletter that you can sign up for. Every day, you'll get an email from Tim with a link to the class and a brief explanation of what you're going to practice that day. It can be really simple, like this one. It's Mobility Day. Today we focus on the upper back, neck and shoulders. Other emails have a bit more depth, like this one from day 17. I want to start to introduce you to some of the more subtle aspects of asana. For this, you'll need to have the patience to slow down, look inward and look outward. To be fully immersed in your pose and breath, but also feeling and sensing your body through space. Do you have the patience to wait until your mat settles and the water becomes clear?
The emails are all short and to the point, but I found them to be helpful reminders to do my practice that day.
At the end of the week, we did a mobility class again, followed by strength training. I tried to follow along as best as I could with the poses that didn't require all those extra props. And for the other exercises, I decided to not be too rigid and just lift some weights instead. The third week ended with learning Nadi Shodhana Pranayama, or alternate nostril breathing. This is a breathing practice that calms the mind and reverses stress by restoring balance in the body. What you do is, you first block your right nostril as you inhale through the left. Next, you switch sides, blocking the left nostril and opening the right as you exhale. Then you do it the other way around, inhaling through the right nostril and exhaling through the left. A really interesting technique that I want to practice more of. One thing that I wish was different about a challenge is a longer shavasana, or corpse pose, at the end of the session. Like 5 minutes or even longer, to really go deep into relaxation after the practice. I often found myself still in the middle of it when I was already instructed to get up and end the class.
Gently bend your knees. Roll over onto your side. And press yourself up to seated.
And the way YouTube works, a new video will automatically play next, so I couldn't simply continue on my own with the relaxation without first getting up. This is something that's common with all yoga classes on YouTube, not just this challenge.
It reminds me of something I read recently in the book New Slow City, in which William Powers describes his experience of living a slow lifestyle for 1 year in the middle of Manhattan. He describes approaching his yoga teacher to ask about the 1-minute corpse pose at the end of the class, to which she replied, "If I do Shavasana for more than that, people start leaving, too eager to get back to their iPhones." On the other hand, there's this story of Mahatma Gandhi, the famous leader of the Indian independence movement in British-ruled India. He was also a devout yoga practitioner, but struggled with Shavasana. When his teacher found out Gandhi only practiced it for 2 minutes at a time, he said Shavasana should have a soothing effect upon the nerves. You should come out of it as from sleep, quite refreshed. Then he advised him to practice it for 15 minutes instead of 2. If you also do yoga classes on YouTube just like me, I'd love to hear your opinion on whether or not the time allocated to Shavasana is too short. Let me know in the comments below. So as I moved into the last week, I was feeling really slow, not productive. I think it was a combination of things. Doing yoga every day, eating a Whole30 diet, and I tried to make the most of it.
Grilled fish, salads, asparagus with cherry tomatoes, chicken drumsticks. But I guess I missed having a snack or a tasty plate of pasta. Also, I was working from home due to the pandemic and not doing any other exercise. It all felt a bit like the movie Groundhog Day. I recently read this article in the New York Times in which Adam Grant describes the feeling of languishing many people have been experiencing during the pandemic, and I could relate to a lot of it. So I decided to mix it up and do a few cardio sessions. This meant that the challenge would take a few more days to complete, but I was fine with that. I just needed to get my heartbeat up and do something different. Even though there were times I just wanted the challenge to be over, because I was so close to the end, at the same time it felt easier to get started and just do it each day. I was developing a habit of exercising every day, and after doing this for a few weeks, I would just feel drawn to do it.
This reminded me of something James Clear talks about in his book Atomic Habits. You do not rise to the level of your goals, but you fall to the level of your systems. And those systems are your habits. And even though progress might not be noticeable when tracked daily, if you can just get 1% better each day, you'll end up with results that are nearly 37 times better after 1 year.
He also writes, breakthrough moments are often the result of many previous actions, which build up the potential required to unleash a major change. So even on a day where I wasn't really feeling it, I would still get on the mat and just give it my best for that day. And with what I had learned so far, I practiced bringing awareness to what was going on inside and tried to observe it without judgment. On some days, I would also sit in meditation to further develop this skill. And then the day arrived. I finished the 30-day yoga challenge.
Nice that we had this time together, and I want to congratulate you on sticking with the challenge and having the courage to take up the practice, the dedication to make the time for the practice, because there's really a lot of creating time. We don't all have extra time. So great job on that to show the dedication. And I just want to encourage you to keep going with your practice.
So now that I've completed the 30-day challenge, was it worth it? I would say yes, totally. Just the fact that I took on a 30-day challenge and completed it is already a win in and of its own. I feel more flexible in my body, and I also lost almost 4 kilograms. My life is pretty sedentary right now, and I've noticed that doing yoga really helps in loosening up my body. These 30 days I also felt more calm. They say that first you practice developing awareness on the mat, and then take that practice off the mat. Perhaps I experienced a little bit of that. For example, there weren't really any things that upset me during these 30 days. Also, this mindset helped me to stick to not eating any snacks or drinking any alcohol. You may be wondering, what's next? Will I continue? I will definitely continue practicing yoga, especially now that I've built up some momentum. However, as things stand right now, I don't see myself doing it every single day. Towards the end of the challenge, I really started to miss other types of exercise, especially cardio. But I really like this routine of doing exercise almost every day. At the time I'm recording this, it's been about 2 weeks since I finished the challenge, and I've either done cardio or yoga every day since then. If you made it all the way through this video, you may be thinking about doing a 30-day yoga challenge yourself. And I totally encourage you to try it. But would I recommend you to do the Yoga with Tim challenge? I can't compare it to the other 30-day yoga challenges out there because I haven't tried them, but I would 100% recommend the challenge that I did. Tim is a great teacher. He has a very calm voice and presence. He's clearly very knowledgeable, not just about yoga, but also about human anatomy. And I think that's crucial when learning how to do yoga, especially if you're a beginner. It's all too easy to want to move to the crazy advanced poses without proper guidance, running the risk of seriously injuring yourself. Tim places great emphasis on the importance of accepting where you are now and learning correct posture before moving on to the fancy poses. I also like the structure with 4 to 5 consecutive regular yoga practices, followed by a mobility class, strength training, and a class on breathwork. That makes the challenge very versatile. And finally, the secret power of the challenge, Ollie aka the bear dog. My best guess, it's a Labradoodle and he just walks into the shot at the most random times. It's hilarious. If I had to give some constructive feedback, it would be that there are too many props needed for strength training. I'm just not gonna buy a big exercise ball, resistance bands, and a mobility stick. I would have loved to see regular bodyweight strength training exercises instead, and longer shavasanas at the end of the practice. But overall, I really like the videos and I would definitely recommend it to anyone looking for a 1-month yoga challenge. So that's my experience doing yoga for 30 days. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. And if you're interested in seeing more videos like this, please consider subscribing to my channel. And let me know in the comments below, who is your favorite yoga teacher on YouTube? Thanks so much for watching and I will see you in the next video.